Welcome to Tennis Spin, where we put our spin on your tennis. Guys, can a old string feel tighter? Is that possible? Stay tuned. All right, guys. So the question came from Ken Koval. So the subject matter was strings actually getting tighter with use. So this question is for your Tennis Spin channel. I use poly strings, and I find that as the strings get more worn or notched, the string bed actually feels tighter and plays more like a board, just the opposite of what you would think, which is they should be looser. What's your opinion on this, Ken? That's actually a great question. Nobody ever thinks about this, although people do come in, though. They do come in with a racket that's literally years and years old. Like, I'm talking 5 years, 10 years, literally been sitting in the garage, and they bring it to me and they're like, this is so tight. This is like really tight. And then when I try to move it, right, it's literally like pop, like that. Pop, can you hear it? Like that, like this kind of sound, like crack, crack, crack. Maybe the synthetic will be a better, like when it literally, I have to literally crack it out of place. You know, like you can see that's well moved, as that's a synthetic. And when I move it, it's cracking, right? You hear that cracking. So what's really happening? What's really happening here? This is a poly, is what Ken is talking about. And it's literally feeling tighter. Feeling maybe not deader, but harder is what he's saying. And the opposite should be that it should feel looser. Now, I was thinking about this for a little while, and I was like, yeah, I know exactly what's going on. So here's what's really going on. I'm going to use my arms as the strings. Okay? So this is like, I don't know, 1,000 gauge string, okay? If we're talking millimeters. Okay, so like this. This is a string, like just like this, right? So what happens, right? Let's say this is the main, this is the cross, right? When this moves like this, okay? It's getting cut right here. It's getting cut right here, right? To a point where it's supposed to naturally just break, right? It'll snap right here. But what's happening though, because you're playing and you're cutting it, right? At some point, when this notch gets halfway or deeper, right? And this actually sinks into here. This sinks into here halfway, right? Therefore, it's much more difficult to move this, right? It's much more difficult to move this. What happens then? Because it's like stuck there, right? So the spaces in between the squares are less, obviously. So it actually gets the whole tension in between a little longer and a little harder. So it's not, so the tension doesn't go all the way through the strings, but in its little kind of notched areas. Therefore, causing it to feel tighter because it's actually holding in right there and it's not moving. It's not free flowing as much anymore. So when you hit it hard enough to actually move it is when you actually get looseness and springiness, right? So you see that? But because it's notched in, right, this is what's causing it to be actually stiffer and tighter because the tension is actually being held here. It's being held here, right? Because it's not allowed to go out all the way through the string, right? So what does that mean? What does that mean? You need a new string job. So it's at the point where you're kind of losing kind of, you're losing tension, you're losing springiness, you're losing spin. You're probably losing a little bit of power. It's probably dead at this point now. So, but that's basically what is happening, is that it's kind of trying to hold tension in between the squares now. Therefore, it actually feels tighter, right? Because when you string like a brand new string job, right, the tension's all through, and when it snaps back. So without the snap and without the ease of the snap, it's gonna be and feel tighter, right? So, Ken, thank you for the question. Sounds like you need a string job, though. All right. Thank you for the question, though. Guys, get a string job if you're at that point. Or, like what I say, if it feels fine to you and it doesn't bother you, roll with it. Thank you for watching Tennis Spin, where we put our spin on your tennis.